Today, I'm going to share the top 5 ways to protect your real estate investment so that you can sleep at night knowing that you're doing the best you can to protect your real estate investment. If you're ready for that, let's go. Hey guys, it's DM and welcome back to Lifestyleleaps. If you're anything like me, I'm the planner of my family. I think about how do we obtain wealth, build wealth, collect assets, but I also worry about how do we protect it? How do we not lose it and end up living under a bridge someday? So in this video, I'm going to share with you 5 ways to protect your real estate investments. If you find this type of content useful, be sure to subscribe or check out my other videos. Now, let's get right into it. First thing is to make sure that you have the proper insurance coverage. So there's a distinction between landlord insurance, where you have tenants, and then just homeowner insurance, where you're like the owner that occupies that home. And the important difference is 3 main things. The first is going to be liability claims, if your tenant claims any liabilities or sues you in a lawsuit for that. Another is property damage that caused by the tenants or just as a result of being a landlord, which is different than property damage that is nature caused or like being a homeowner in the home. And then there's loss of rental income. So the loss of rental income is a really big piece for me too. There was one time I had a furnace breakdown. The home warranty company took a long time back and forth to make the repairs. And so I ended up losing one of my short-term rental contracts as a result. I was able to submit that along with the cost of the repairs and all of that to get, I think it was probably like $10K back, which is a significant amount when you think about a 12-month rental period, right? Those 3 factors differentiate a landlord policy from just a homeowner's policy. But I also want to bring your attention to the type of rental that you're carrying out there, or if you also live on site. So for example, one of my properties is divided into 3 units. It has a long-term, mid-term, and short-term rental tenants there. So it's important that the policy can cover all 3 types of rentals, whereas the home I currently live in, I live here, I also have a midterm rental and a short-term rental. So that's an even more niche type of a policy. And then my other 2 properties have long-term tenants. It's important to work with once you get to like this level of assets, and by this level, I mean just when there's multiple factors, right, to insure for, I prefer to work with an insurance agent or an insurance broker instead of just going online to get my own insurance policy because of these variables or these nuances that, because I'm a layman's person who's not an expert in insurance, I really need to lean on their expertise to make sure that I'm properly covered so I don't get screwed. Number 2, putting your assets into a legal structure. By that, I mean you can consider what are the benefits of putting your home into, let's say, an LLC. So in this case, it would be taking the title of the home and transferring it from your name over to an LLC that you also own. The reason why you would do this is because as an entity, the LLC is limited to assets within its own entity. So if a renter or tenant or somehow you're involved in a lawsuit where they're suing that LLC and you only have, let's say, the one property in there, they can now not pursue your personal assets outside of that entity or any other businesses that you own that are in other entities. So essentially, it just puts a cap or a limit on the liability or the risk of a lawsuit that they're able to seek you out for. Now, if you choose to put your real estate property into an LLC, it is important that you do the things that are required by the LLC in order to what's called maintain your corporate veil. If anybody can just open an LLC and put homes in it and then suddenly it's a separate entity, then they would just do that. But it's not that simple. In order to have an LLC, which is a business that essentially collects rent and pays mortgage and all of those things, you would need to uphold those entities' corporate structure. It's important to note that you must maintain your corporate structure by maintaining the proper records, whether that's meeting minutes for the LLC itself, or whatever else that is required to ensure that you have a corporate veil. A corporate veil means that it is the protection that keeps whatever is inside that entity a separate business from you as a person or from other businesses that you own. And if your intention is to limit or cap out the liability that you would owe to what is the assets inside that entity, then you would have to make sure that you maintain the proper structure, corporate minutes, or whatever else the requirement is so that your corporate veil cannot be pierced. Number 4 is kind of a little bit part of number 3, but this one is having a strong lease agreement. So number 3 talks about having a really good tenant screening process to ensure that the individual is a good individual to have in your property. But the tool that is required to ensure that you are both on the same page and agree on the same thing is the lease agreement. So some important factors to name, outline, and have clarity around in your lease agreement could be late payment outcomes, who's in charge of maintenance for what things, how does the maintenance process work if they need a repair, what are they responsible for when it comes to maintenance of the home, and then property misuse, rules about guests, what can they do in the property, back when like growing cannabis was a big thing, that was included in, leases that you couldn't do that in the home. And so as things change and industries change, keep that in mind about your lease to make sure that the use of the home is proper and what you want and intended it to be. It's also important to outline clearly things like maintenance, security deposit, and the eviction process, or what causes or leads to evictions and how that works. Essentially, what you're trying to do is clearly communicate to your tenant the set of expectations and have them agree to that. So it's also really important not just to send your lease off for signature or have them sign and mail it back. It's really important that you have this incorporated in a real conversation. Maybe this will be they sign the lease, you do a walkthrough, and you're going over the terms of the lease again to make sure that they really understand, because there's no point in signing a lease if they in their minds don't hold themselves accountable to the terms in that lease. And so I don't mean that to say, hey, come down on them or say, talk to them in a condescending way about the lease, but just making sure that they don't have any questions, that if they had any questions, you're happy to answer them, and that these are the outlined items that you will be honoring inside of your lease terms. We've made it to number 5, ways to protect your real estate investment. And this last one is totally in your control, and that is property maintenance. Normally, when you go to buy a home, there's an inspector that goes in to inspect the home. There's a roof inspection, a home inspection, maybe a sewer lateral inspection, maybe a pest inspection. And a lot of times homeowners only do this at the time of purchase. Now, I could kind of see that if you're going to own or occupy the home and you're seeing your house day in and day out, you know the type of wear and tear and use that you're putting onto the home. But when you are a landlord, you do not know what is going on. And so for me, there's 2 components to maintenance. One is ongoing maintenance, and then 2 is routine inspections. So let's talk about the ongoing maintenance. You want to have a good rapport with your tenant to where if they have a small issue, they feel comfortable talking to you about it or sharing that with you, and then you can figure out how to resolve that. This benefits you even though it can feel sometimes like a nuisance that you're just getting calls for small things, but small things unattended lead to big things. And so if they're telling you, hey, there's a small dripping leak under the sink, that's a small thing. If they call you or actually if they don't call you and suddenly you find out that over time there had been a leak that was unresolved and now has turned into the cabinets getting moldy. So there's a mold issue. You have to replace the whole cabinets, maybe the subflooring underneath. That's a huge issue, right? So encouraging communication. If something is small, get in there, fix it right away. But what if they don't inform you of something? And that's where inspections come into play. So you can do an annual inspection and do a walkthrough of the home to ensure that things are in good shape. If you don't want to do that yourself, you can hire a handyman to do that. You can hire an inspector to do that. So for me, even though it is kind of pricey, every few years, 5 to 7 years, I will do a full home inspection to make sure that nothing from the previous inspection has gotten massively worse, like things that they call out to look for. I don't need it to be with a professional inspector unless one of those items only a professional inspector would be able to identify. But essentially, I pull back out those reports. I have a handyman that does a general inspection of all the things, or even a contractor. You can hire them to do that. And then I will also go through and look at those previous reports and compare to see if those things have grown. From there, you can identify things to fix. And hopefully, if you catch it early, you can fix them before they become major, major issues. So to recap, the 5 things are making sure you're properly insured, having the right legal structure when it's necessary, screening your tenants properly, having the right lease agreement and not just expecting them to sign it, but actually have them understand what is in there. And the last thing is to have regular maintenance and inspections on your property. I hope those 5 tips help. Check out these other videos that are related to home rentals and tenancy, and please like and subscribe. I'll see you next time.